Good afternoon, and welcome to the Voice of Wisdom. With over 60 years of experience as an investment banker, entrepreneur, investment analyst, genius economist, venture capitalist, and political analyst and strategist, Morty Davis is Wall Street and capitalism personified. The over 400 companies for which he has raised more than $3 billion over the years have created a countless number of jobs and exciting new products. Through the Voice of Wisdom, Mr. Davis explores, analyzes, and debates the most topical political, economic, and social issues facing our world today. Joining Mr. Davis today for a discussion on the Israel-Iran conflict is Len Carter. Len is an investment banker, business consultant, and private investor. And now, Mr. Davis and Mr. Carter.
Welcome back. I'd like to start the program by saying it's great to be back with you, to back you as well, to be back with you again every Wednesday at 5:30. And I have to confess, it's only Tuesday at 5:30. We're doing a program a day earlier because I had other financial and board of director commitments this Wednesday. But I'm still excited and thrilled to be back with you, even if it's a day early. But, we're going to have to deal with what has happened so far this week, even though there's a lot going on right at this very moment as we're doing this podcast, because Trump is considering what to do with respect to Iran, whether he should help Israel finally get rid of all their ability to produce a bomb. Israel's done a lot to set them back, but the main area, the main destination, I forget what it's called, Forward or something. You know the name of it?
Fordo.
Fordo is a mile underground, and Israel can't reach it. Only the United States has the capacity to drop what do they call it? A breaker.
Bunker buster.
A bunker buster. That's it.
A lot of bunker busters.
A bunker buster, or even the delivery, because it's a 30,000-pound bomb. So they don't have the airplane that can carry that 30,000 bomb, and they don't have the bomb available. Only the United States of all nations is known to have that capacity. And for a while, it seemed like Trump was on board to use it. During the negotiations to make an agreement with Iran, he said you have 60 days, and if you don't come up with satisfactory terms for an agreement, comply with our wishes, you're going to suffer great consequences, terrible consequences. Well, notwithstanding that 60 days passed, and Trump sort of backed down, and is still pushing for an agreement. And they're still as stubborn and as insistent as ever that they won't forego or close up Fort Doe. And so there was a stalemate. And for a while, it looked like Trump gave up on it, or was still threatening, but a lot of his people were saying, we don't want to be involved in a war. It's not our war. It's Israelis' war. They could do the job, and we got to stay out of wars, So it's sad that most Americans, even those that support Israel, fail to understand that the real end goal of Iran is to get the great Satan, Israel is only the small state, and they already said without hesitation that we want to get the bomb so we could wipe out not only the state of Israel, but the Jewish people. And so that's where we are right now. He was just, as I came to join this podcast, Trump was just breaking up a meeting with his key advisors as to what to do next. And it looks like he seems to be closer to the idea of adopting the idea that if Iran doesn't comply with the terms and give up all possibility of making a bomb, even though with all the damage Israel has done and the free reign they have with their planes over Iran, they have the ability to destroy everything. So all they did is, and they did important work, set it back for a while, but they certainly didn't eliminate the possibility that if we step away, if Israel steps away or the U.S. fails to back them up, and Florida is still there after they make a ceasefire or whatever, they will have not accomplished the goal that they've been seeking for these many years, all the way back to Jimmy Carter. I looked at some what do you call it, films of back when Jimmy Carter looked like a kid, and he was saying how important it is that we eliminate Iran's ability to do the damage they seem to want to do to the United States. So it's been an ongoing, since I think it was 79, maybe 21, about 45 years, something like that. And if anything, they're closer to a bomb than ever of achieving not one bomb, but a bunch of atomic bombs. So we can't discuss the outcome of that meeting because Trump hasn't even announced what he's concluded, but he seems to be leaning more towards backing Israel totally because of all the innocent people that are dying. It's heartbreaking for Israeli and Iranian civilians, and because the Iranian citizenry and those that live in Iran are not the enemy. They're victims of the Khomeini themselves because they're being abused and controlled, and their women are beaten up, and so it's just heartbreaking the number of deaths now. It's been going on, the bombing, mutual back and forth bombing of missiles and what do they call it? What are they shooting at Israel? The
ballistic missiles. Ballistic missiles. And
that the kids even play with them. Those things you shoot up in the air and
fireworks?
No, that Israel shoots down with the Iron Dome.
They're shooting down ballistic missiles that...
No, it's before the ballistic missiles, they were shooting down those. It's the latest weapon in war now.
Drone.
What?
Drone.
Drones. Yeah, drones.
Unmanned aircraft, the drones, yes.
So they're killing hundreds of innocent people every day. In addition to killing, they're wounding thousands back and forth. So it's got to stop. Israel won't tolerate it, and I don't think Iran is prepared to live with it, even though they talk like they're powerful and they're going to destroy Israel, but they've lost all control of their own airwaves because Israel has overcome any resistance to their own air. They fly freely to Iran and over Iran and hit any targets they want. So it looks like there's decent prospects for getting Iran to respond positively. Possibly. I mean, they could respond positively, and you can't trust them as far as you can throw these 3,000-pound bombs. But so we should be discussing that Wednesday, but we're on Tuesday night. So we'll discuss all of the events that occurred during this week. And as I say, since we discuss current events and major events, which by their nature are depressing, are the ones that make the headlines, the killings, the slaughters, the assaults. We deliver with this podcast, even though that's not our intention, but in discussing the current events of the week, inevitably it turns out that we're telling you all the negative things that abound if you have any kind of normal emotional responses, depressive information, depressing tragedies. It's hurtful, even if you think of it's the other side. We're, in a war, we kill good people on the other side too. You know, it's sad that we can't cut out wars, that we send young 20-year-olds, 17 to 25-year-olds, our most valuable future asset. Both countries in a war, or all the countries in a war, lose those people, and they have no hatred necessarily, absent that countries tell them to pick up these arms and train and learn how to kill as many as fast as they can of these other young people. They could very well be best friends and working together and creating new products together and so forth. It's so horrendous that wars do that. So by virtue of what we discuss, we're bound to, if you're at all sensitive to the events, the disturbing, depressing, the harrowing events that occur each week these days in the war or the equivalent of wars between nations, we are forced in the nature of our delivery of this information and discussing it, bring up the most depressing events, slaughters and killings. Congressmen were shot by a supposed policeman in Minnesota. We came with a police uniform. They said if he joined a bunch of other cops, policemen, and came in with them together, the police would think he's one of them. So they have all kind of methods of reaching out and killing good people. They said that 2 people that he killed and the 2 others that he sent to the hospital with serious wounds were wonderful political leaders. It's heartbreaking. So I don't need you to, you don't need me to refresh your memory if you're attuned to the news to get you depressed about all the events, negative events, all of the upheavals and some of the what do they call them? Protests that turn into beating up police and ruining businesses by throwing rocks through the windows and stealing the merchandise in the stores and so forth. It's hard to believe. You know, they say, this is not America. What? This is not America. But sadly, it is. You know, it's not meant to be. We like to think of ourselves as good people and as cooperative people that treat each other well. We have no hatred. We have no biases. But it's turned out that we show our worst side during these periods just by being loyal to different parties. It's come to such a low state that there are many leaders that think we're on the verge of civil war. We have a silent civil war kind of. Anyway, because of the nature of what we produce, I know we're going to impart some sadness and some depression. So to shield you or to prepare you, I want to give you some idea, at least one idea at the start, coming out of my book that I published not so long ago, called Happiness Guaranteed or Your Misery Back. That's on your screen if you're watching this on the podcast live. At the bottom of the cover it says, how to be happy no matter what. And that's my goal. I wrote the book and I behave in my life to create joy and happiness. Happiness in the sense, not that many of us think of it as being high and taking cocaine or marijuana or 20 beers or tons of alcohol, and it seemingly being very happy, and which in fact is contrary to happiness. It produces death and sickness, and if it doesn't produce that, it does produce depression once the effect passes of the drugs. So my goal is to create what the Constitution, or what our forefathers told us to do in the Bill of Rights, to have our country, our leaders pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That means the pursuit of happiness is to get you content, to bring contentment to your life, to bring smile to your life. Not a high, not a drug-induced seeming out of this world happiness, but to be really pleased about your life and content and live with the feeling that things are good and going to get better. So my suggestion at this juncture, I remember my wife telling me she had two older brothers and she was the youngest of three children. And since she was the girl and the youngest, and they were studying and they were considered important to the future of the Jewish people, the nation, they were studying to be rabbinical scholars and rabbis and teachers. So they felt they were doing great things, and that she should wash the dishes and clean up the kitchen after a meal and so forth. And at first she was very resentful of that, she says. They just coached her or pushed her to do it. And they kept telling her, anything you do with a smile, do with happiness. And after a while, she said she learned to do that. While she did the dishes, she sang, she even danced, she cleaned up the kitchen until she passed away 3-4 years ago after 70 years of being married to me and smiling in the face of all that represented. She took that attitude. Everything that was negative, she dealt with a smile, with a joy. It was so funny. I looked at her doing housework or dishes or laundry, and she did it with such enthusiasm and contentment and pleasure that she was, every time she did a little bit more, she was getting closer to the end of the whatever persecution it represented, but she learned to treat it with a kind of joy and even love. And I want you to do the same. Any challenge you're living with, any endeavor you're involved with, do it with a smile on your face. Do it with joy. Do it if somebody would look at you, they'd say, "What, my God, he or she's having such a good time." And make sure you feel that way, and it'll happen. Because if you have a joyous attitude, it'll bring a smile to your face, and you will be joyful. So my advice to you is smile. It's hard to be depressed when you're smiling and laughing. If you start to cry, even if things are good, your emotions bring a sad mood to your demeanor. So if you go at everything in life, if your kids aggravate you, just think of how pleasant they are, how beautiful they are, how much joy they're going to bring you, and smile and laugh and enjoy and make them enjoy, because if they see a smile on your face, they'll learn how to smile as well, and they'll develop this great virtue of smiling, of being upbeat, of being content and happy. So this book in front of you, Happiness Guaranteed, has collected, insofar as possible, within 365 days, one page for every day of the year, all of the greatest ideas that I could locate in libraries, on the internet, and the treasures that we've inherited over the centuries since the beginning of mankind, the beginning of civilization, to teach us how to be happier. One of the things that sparked that feeling in me was a Catholic priest in Manhattan, wrote a book, and I read it early in my life, called The Power of Positive Thinking. And he just pointed out that if you think positively, positive things happen. The reverse is also true. If you think negatively, negative things happen. You're depressed and you're not effective. So think positively. Dale Carnegie wrote a book that was helpful. How to stop worrying and start living. Start enjoying life. Start appreciating how special you are, that we were given life. You can't buy an extra 5 minutes once your time is up. So it's the most valuable thing, more than money. You could have $1 billion and you can't buy 5 minutes more at the end of it, at any time in your life. Whatever lifespan you allocated, that's it. So enjoy every minute, appreciate every minute, and be joyful every minute. And if you take life with that attitude, address life with that attitude, I promise you, your contentment will rise, your effectiveness will rise, your success will be dramatically increased. It's just so true that positive thinking leads to positive results. So please, smile even now as I'm talking. Smile, laugh, give other people the opportunity to laugh. Do good things when you help somebody cross the street, even as little as that, and they say thank you and smile at you. You realize how little it takes to make other people happy. If the person's blind, then he's especially happy because you're so helpful to him. But even just an older person that has a hard time, if you demonstrate a kind of caring and love, you're making the world a better place, and you will derive joy and contentment, and your life will be filled with better days every day of your existence. So please do that for yourself, not for me. Do it for yourself. But if you don't do it for me, I'm going to come around and make sure to grab you by the collar and insist that you smile and laugh and get a copy of my book, because I give you one or two ideas. I can't give you all the ideas that this book has, but this book will add to the quality of your life and the joy of your life. And it definitely won't be the most expensive or costly investment you've made, or if you get it as a gift, the most wonderful in terms of cost or expense of gift that you ever get. But I promise you it will be the most valuable, or at least amongst the most valuable and gratifying and helpful and conducive to your happiness and to a better life than you could ever hope for. So go out and get the book. I make it so easy for you to do that because I've had so much feedback since I published the book. I don't even give an address. They call my publisher. They call. I don't know how they get in touch with me even. I guess I'm a national figure because I'm on television from time to time, and I've written books. So they get in touch with me, and they thank me for what this book has meant to them. And so I made this deal, learning that people have appreciated it, and I haven't got any complaints, which is remarkable. You know, often you get constructive criticism and well-meaning suggestions to improve it. I've offered the best deal ever. I said, if you purchase a copy of this book and you're not gratified, pleased, indeed thrilled with what it produces for you, what it delivers to you in terms of uplifting your spirit and making a better, more contented life for you, I will return, send me the purchase ticket, and whatever price you paid, I will refund not the price you paid, but double the price you paid. So right away, that should put a smile on your face. And you can still keep the book. So I don't know how you can get a better deal than that. The best deal on television I ever see is that if you're not pleased with the product or you don't like the product, send us back the purchase ticket and we'll refund your money and you can still keep the supplement or the medication. But I'm giving you double your money back. And with that offer, and even if you got it as a gift, if you get the purchase slip from the person that gave you the gift, I'll give you back double that price that he paid. And you still can keep the book. And you benefit from it. So it's a no-brainer. Run out and get the book. I promise you, every day will be uplifted. It's 365 pages, one for every day of the year. You don't have to read it one day at a time. You can read it 2 pages, so you can read it. But it's not to be read as a book. So it's to be read and practiced. So it's better if you read 1 page and try to implement the suggestions on that page. But however you use it, it's going to be a great benefit to you, and you'll thank your lucky stars and even thank me for introducing you, for making it available to you. And I wish you only greater happiness, contentment, and joyous days the rest of your life. Without further ado, I want you to put a smile on your face and let's deal with the events, the unhappy events of the week. And I'm delighted to have Len Carter back with me. He's a genius. He graduated at the top of his class from 3 of the greatest schools, colleges, university in this nation. He graduated from Harvard Business School, where I graduated from, the best business school in the world in my book. And if not the greatest, at least surely amongst the top 5 or 10. And he graduated with honors, just as I did. He went to undergraduate university to Ivy League university that's considered outstanding, Cornell University, where he majored in engineering, electrical engineering, and graduated at the top of his class, and then went on to one of the greatest schools in America and in the world, in California, Stanford University, where he got an advanced degree in electrical engineering. That's the university that produces more billionaires that come up with new ideas. 2 young men, 2 young Russian Jews, started Google while they were attending Stanford. And it's in the midst of Silicon Valley. And so many of the best tech companies have emanated from that university. So it's really a privilege and a pleasure for me and for you to have Len join us for this podcast. So Len, would you launch this exciting, depressing current events
Sure. Thank you.
discussion?
Thank you, Morty, as always, for having me back. So lots happened in the last week. Let's just by way of background and backdrop, because I think it's important to just set the stage as to some of the events leading up to this conflict. So about a week ago, for the first time in 20 years, the 35-nation Board of Governors of the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, formally declared Iran in breach of the nuclear non-proliferation obligations that it had agreed to. And, that's quite significant because up until now, whether Iran was or wasn't in compliance or for non-proliferation, it wasn't observed or officially said.
We depended on the Atomic Energy Commission that was set up to watch that thing, to advise us, and Iran was able to, fool them or keep them unaware of progress.
And for 20 years. And so for the first time in 20 years, they finally came out, 35 nations, and said they're not in compliance. So,
and you know what Iran's
reaction was? Okay, that's great. Now we're going to go even faster to build a bomb. Right. Not to say, no, we're sorry, or we'll change. No, thanks.
We're going to accelerate that.
So, and then
we're going to accelerate the violations.
Correct. And so you had that as a backdrop. And, is it a surprise that a few days later, Israel attacks Iran to destroy the nuclear capability? So, this, I think the news headlines.
The background, for those that don't know it, that for the last 40 years, Iran said, we want to get that atomic bomb, that nuclear capacity, so we could destroy Israel.
Death to America.
And the Jewish people as well. And America as well.
I mean, since the fall of the Shah in the late 70s and the Islamic Revolution in the late 79, it's been a chant of death to America. Yeah. That's the chant. That's the reprise.
Even more than Israel, they said Israel is the tiny or the small Satan, and America is the great Satan. So when some Americans and American political leaders and elected representatives say it's not our war, it's not, let Israel fight it, they have a right to defend themselves, but we don't belong in it. And Americans tend to be so unaware, if not ignorant, of world conditions, of how other nations see us, or how Iran looks at us. They think it's Israel that's a danger, and they don't realize that Israel is just one step in this desire to wipe out freedom and democracy, and particularly freedom of religion, because they have the view that everybody should be Muslim. And they're allowed to kill according to their religion to accomplish that. and they kill their own.
It's an honor to do so.
What?
It's an honor to do so.
And not only that, but the remarkable thing is they kill people of their own religion. The Sunnis kill the Shiites every single day, all because one segment of Islam follows another strand of Muhammad's. It's unbelievable. I mean, Jews argue and they fight and they sue. Christians fight and we don't kill each other. We might kill each other verbally. We might, even now, unfortunately, we do somehow.
Well, I mean,
kill each other.
Yeah, I mean, there is a history of, the Inquisition. There's been a lot of death as a result of
the United States wasn't responsible for the Inquisition.
True, but I'm saying in terms of religion.
Today there's even people killing the very people that are out there to protect them. They kill cops. It's unheard of.
But I think why I think that this is important as far as the background to the attack is because when the attack was first reported on the news, it was just reporting of the attack, and it wasn't.
Which attack?
When Israel first attacked Iran.
Yeah.
And I think what was missing, at least initially, now as the coverage grows and expands in more detail, is that backdrop of the Declaration of Non-Proliferation, and then followed by Iran saying, "Okay, now we're going to accelerate." So it wasn't an out of the blue, we just decided to attack Iran. I mean, there's a real escalation of danger.
But we haven't. The United States hasn't decided to.
No, but I'm saying for Israel, it wasn't. Israel just didn't. It's important, I think, for people to realize that wasn't, as somebody might think, this because of how the news gets reported. Oh, Israel attacked Iran. Well, how about some of the context behind it to understand why that was something that might
but Len,
make sense?
Sadly, most Americans, or certainly a majority of Americans, are unaware of all of the international.
That's exactly why. Right. Dynamics. That's exactly why I think this background is important, because it sets, I think, a whole different stage, basis, and justification for what's.
To the extent that people realize it.
Well, that's why. Right. That's why I wanted people to realize it.
But listening. The people that listen to us probably already know it, but most people, the news they get doesn't address this.
So let's talk about.
It doesn't reach them,
Let's talk about the end game. So what Israel said was, we want to eliminate Iran's ability to create a nuclear weapon, and it's the ability to not just have one, but to deliver one. So what do you think? What do you think that their end game is in terms of is it just the destruction of that? Do you think they're looking for regime change to really to bring about something that would be more permanent? Because if you don't stop the desire to create a weapon of mass destruction, are you really achieving your goal? Because it will come back maybe later than you think, but it'll come back. So, and do they was knowing that they don't have the ability to destroy that Fordo mountain, was their end game to somehow
the Fordo mountain has a nuclear
underground centrifuges deep underground.
even with the freedom Israel has developed to fly over, you know,
Right. They don't have the
without-
bombs or the
without
planes to
risk.
deliver. So
They don't
knowing
have-
that
you know.
is one of your strategies as Israel to create a scenario to pull the U.S. in, knowing that they have the ability to destroy that mountain, and now you create a situation where they help you maybe less willingly than if you just had gone to them from the beginning and said, "Hey, will you help us do this?" Because originally Trump didn't.
Yeah, no,
He
but
was
I
more
think they're
standoff.
Stating the wishes of Israel. They would love for the United States to take that role because the United States is one of the ultimate victims, the greater win for the goal of Iran. But they don't insist that the United States take up arms and send soldiers, foot soldiers, and lose lives. They're just saying if you just give us support, and so far,
But doesn't that support include helping to destroy Fordo? Because they know they can't do it themselves.
no, but it's not entering the war physically. It's providing.
There's different degrees of
You know,
entering.
it's just like what
I
they.
mean, there's doing nothing. There's helping defend against incoming, which the U.S. has been doing. But so far, the U.S. hasn't taken an offensive act. Bombing Fordo would be an offensive act. You could go even further and bring troops in to regime change. So there's different. I think I see it as different
But
degrees
even
of
bombing Fordo, if there's no American military involved, no.
Well, it's an
American
offensive. It
personnel.
may not be with people, but it's
That's
still
okay,
an offensive.
No, but the thing that people keep insisting on, even the people that support backing Israel, is that we don't want to be in any more wars. That we like Trump's attitude: no wars, no. So Trump has taken the attitude; it's changed dramatically from what he initially said. He really said Biden accommodated Iran too readily because all they did is guaranteed they wouldn't have a bomb for 5 years, and after that they could start working on it. But certainly they were moving incessantly and inevitably to the production, and they have been saying for years now they're only probably if let go if we didn't interfere, only months or even weeks away from producing the bomb.
So, if do you think that if the U.S. winds up getting involved in the form of missile attacks or attacking Fordo, do you think that would have happened without Israel first starting the attack? Because before this, there was the attitude of not starting any more conflicts. Now, and yet, there's still, Iran would still have been developing a weapon. Would it just have been later that the U.S. gets involved, or do you think if this didn't happen first with Israel, the U.S. wouldn't ever be involved?
Well, I think the history, the evidence is when Trump won his first election, he immediately what's the word I'm looking for? Rejected the deal that Obama
Right.
and Biden had with it.
Right.
A tolerance for them moving ahead. So that he recognized the risk and supported Israel based on that. It's not that he was so in love with Israel, although he may have been, because if he ran for Prime Minister of Israel, Trump probably would win in a landslide. But he did have that approach. Would he have gone as far as he may be prepared to go now? I don't know. I don't know if he would have got the support. So he gets a lot of support from those that care a lot. Certain congressmen are very supportive. Others are totally against getting further involved. It so happens that at the current moment, the United States is helping to deter some of the missiles from coming into Israel.
Yeah, defensively shooting down and aiding in the defense. So do you see? I don't see any way that the U.S. doesn't wind up bombing Fordo. Do you? Do you see any scenario? I mean, even if Iran came in the next day and said, "All right, we'll agree to completely disarm and get like what Libya did," and do you think that would appease Trump in terms of not insisting on not having a bomb? I don't see that happening either.
He seemed to indicate that in recent discussions that if he could get the guarantees that they eliminate Fordo, not a bomb,
yeah,
but cooperatively,
right?
That we could make peace with.
That's what I think when he says unconditional surrender.
Yeah,
that's what he means.
And before that, unconditional surrender is just the last 2-3 days. But before that, he said if they really got rid of it, if we could have our people go in and certify that was true, then we could perhaps arrive at an agreement. But they wouldn't even consider that.
I don't think so.
They said no. So that's why it never moved ahead. And then he said, you have 60 days. If you don't do something, the consequences will be dire for you. And notwithstanding that, they didn't do anything in the 60 days.
But I could see Trump now saying, given the situation and how debilitated you've become in the last week or so, I'll give you a week. You've got 1 week to surrender, to agree to unconditional inspections and disarmament, everything, and then wait the week. And then, like he did the 60 days, and then say, okay, now we're going to. I mean, I think politically that may be smart for Trump because at least he could look. There's a bunch of his MAGA base who doesn't want him to do. Wants to completely stay.
I think the most he could do right now, in that case, without having a big rebellion. And political rebellion is to provide Israel with the means to get rid of Fordo, not the United States doing it.
So U.S. would have to give Israel the B-52 bombers.
The bombers that could carry that.
So
bust.
Right, they'd have to give them the bombers and the bombs, both.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if
giving them the bombers alone doesn't help anything.
Right. They'd have
and
to
giving them the bomb
doesn't
do
right.
Doesn't.
But I don't know if you think that how is that any more appeasing to people who don't support that than the U.S. just doing it?
No, at least we're not losing American soldiers every day. The people don't want to be in a war. At least not one, in Afghanistan.
So you think they're okay with bombing, but
Americans were killed.
Yeah,
3,000.
Right.
It's a joke that we went to a major war because 10, mostly Saudi Arabians, bombed the flew those American airplanes into the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, but it wasn't a provocation that should have led to an attack on Pakistan. We just took out our anger, and it was sort of a
We needed somebody to go
reaction,
after.
yeah,
Sure.
like a reaction, an
I mean,
angry reaction.
right. So, what about in terms of approval? We talk about checks and balances in on the president's powers, and as only Congress has the technical power to declare war, but the president can do a lot of non-congressional war type of things. Democrat
Most of the wars
Senator,
we've been in
recently, yes, have been non-declared. Right. In fact, the last one I think might have been World War II. But so Democratic Senator Tim Kaine.
World War II we did.
No, saying that was the last one.
Oh,
not since. No Korea, Vietnam, Iraq. None of those were declared.
well, maybe the one against what was on the island? The one
Grenada.
Yeah.
So Tim Kaine, senator from Virginia, said,
who was the vice presidential
nominee with Hillary in
last
in 2016. So 2016. So he is wants to introduce a war powers resolution into the Senate that would require explicit congressional approval for any U.S. forces to be engaged in hostility against Iran. Now, I don't know if forces means pilots or soldiers in boots, but do you think that the president alone should have the power and ability to make that decision, or do you think that it should be in the hands of a broader group like the Congress to do that? I mean, a lot of times, like the Congress will have something like they had it for Iraq, right? There was a resolution to go into Iraq. It wasn't a declaration of war. It was basically the same thing, but there was an approval. Everyone, it's who was the guy who said I was against it? I was against it before I was for it, or I was for it before I was against it. But Hillary voted for to go into Iraq. At the time, it was an overwhelming vote of support, which Bush took as the green light and went in. So, in this case, do you think that that's something that should be vested solely in the hands of the president, or should it be, should it require congressional approval, or is it okay to do some, like maybe just bombing, attacks on, say, that Fordo Mountain, but to put any soldiers to go further, to actually commit lives, not that putting pilots over is that's risking lives too, not as many.
He's not talking about putting down our pilots. Israel has the pilots that can fly that plane.
Right, but should the president have the ability to authorize the use, even if it's not by American pilots, by Israeli pilots, the use of U.S. planes and bombs to be part of an offensive, or should it be vested more into the Congress?
Well, in my view, yes, because even though a lot of the congressmen don't see it that way, or for some reason, they've attacked American ships. Their proxies have attacked American ships in the sea, cost the economy billions of dollars, and a rise in oil prices that would not have occurred absent the behavior of the proxy. The whole Houthi nation is a small nation, and without Iran, they couldn't do anything what they're doing. So we've been attacked, and if we're attacked, he has a right to react. And that's the position. If I were Trump, that's what I would do.
Do you think there's any actions that Iran could take, what that would provoke or result in the U.S. bringing a land invasion if they say attacked
if they attack,
our bases, or if they try to attack,
or our, we just sent from Europe aircraft carriers.
Mm-hmm.
If they attacked an American aircraft carrier and killed a bunch of disabled, that would be an attack on America. So in that case, he would be reacting.
And then so we would send soldiers in with the goal to regime change at that point, right? I mean, it wouldn't just be to bust up the country.
No,
what would we be sending the soldiers in to do? What we did in Iraq, to go in and physically push out the government and then occupy the country.
To win the war, yeah, it's a war, and any war we enter, we should go. We haven't since the end of Second World War. At the end of the Second World War, we told Japan and Germany, you got to surrender unconditionally. We haven't done that with Korea. We still haven't gotten it. They haven't attacked. We don't attack. But the war is still going on. nor have we settled with any of it.
Right.
So Vietnam, I don't think we have a peace agreement.
Right. So let's look on the other. So on the that's on the U.S. Iran side. One thing we haven't seen is really any support by basically any country of Iran. Like no other country, even their Arab neighbors. The most they've been saying is, we'd like to see de-escalation. But I think behind the scenes, they're as fearful of a nuclear-armed Iran as anyone else is, because they don't want, them to have. They don't want an arms race in the Middle East, and they certainly don't want a country like Iran to have nuclear weapons. So they haven't been defending. No one's come to Iran's defense. They're pretty much isolated. Do you think that anything could happen that would get other countries? I mean, we have other countries to come to Iran's defense.
I think there are countries that have. But there was one, I didn't realize it. Somebody just pointed
Turkey
out. Somebody pointed out to me that a Turkish minister.
Well, Erdogan is saying.
No, but one of their ministers was speaking at the UN against Israel, and he had an attack, and 2 days later he died. During his speech against Israel, he had a stroke or something, and he died.
But you see countries like Turkey, verbally condemning Israel, but they're not sending, weapons launchers or troops or anything to Iran's defense, nor are any other Arab countries doing that. So it looks like, I don't know. I don't see anything that could happen. Just, we talk about what could happen to draw the U.S. in, an attack on U.S. assets. Is there anything that could happen that draws other countries in?
Not only that, what's his name? The Prime Minister of France is strongly in favor of against Israel. Articulates all the time.
But not to the extent of defending or bringing aid or military aid or any other form of aid to Iran.
But it's pushing Israel to stop. That's very helpful to Iran.
It is, but it doesn't.
That's supportive of Iran.
It is.
It's against Israel.
Okay, but it's not. It's not going to mean Israel can't keep flying over the country and bombing at will because they have no defenses. No one's willing to go that far. They're willing to open their mouth to say,
to the extent that propaganda or PR influences others, Macron is a great enemy of Israel right now. The major enemy, as contrasted to other European countries that may be against this, but Germany is supportive of Israel.
So we're actually a little over time, but let's just talk
Are
about
we?
one last thing that Trump.
If we run over time, we could run into Wednesday.
It's interesting.
One thing over the weekend. So President Trump had a call with Vladimir Putin, and Trump said on Sunday that he thought the Russian leader could act as a mediator. Do you think that there's any role that Putin could play in this? I mean, that's sort of kind of rich when you've got
It would be like
Russia.
If it wasn't serious, it's like the biggest joke because he can't even get them to talk peace between each other, even though they've exchanged prisoners a number of times.
I mean, it's sort of like having Iran on the UN board of human rights. Right?
Not only
the
Iran,
Committee of Human Rights.
Not only Iran.
Putin is the poster child for
all those
mediation.
countries in the Middle East that have no human rights. Libya.
Right. So I'm not sure if Putin's really the best for mediator.
Sometimes he comes up with weird ideas.
But anyway.
He said he's going to make peace in one day.
Well,
it's more than one day.
A few days. All right.
He means well, and he intends to do it if he could, but you can't do everything that you want.
Yep.
But on the whole, I think he's handled it much better than it was handled before he came on board. Better than the Democrats.
No, I think in this case I would agree. So, all right. Thank you for an interesting discussion as always.
Thank you for joining us, for making yourself available. Thank you all for joining you, my, I want to say great cohorts. It's rather than great, my cherished cohorts who join me every week and send me comments, even those that are critical of some of the things I propose or say. God bless you. Just be happy, and to be happy, make other people happy. You'll see how much happier you will be. Let's make the whole world more content, and let's eliminate wars, because we're moving inevitably to the unsustainability of human life in this beautiful world. One day I'll discuss that. I'm writing that in my new book. How it's inevitable. If we don't stop, it's only a matter of time. Not even considering global warming or other conditions that could wipe us out, but just the nature of our treatment, that each time we develop new arms, we always have used them. And now the newest arms are capable. We don't even know, because even when we were considering our scientists that were handling the bomb that went over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, before they launched it, they weren't sure what the impact, what the consequences would be. They thought it might very well, what do you call it?
They thought it might vaporize the atmosphere.
Yeah, or the...
They really
or
didn't
the,
know.
what do you call it?
It would just set off a chain reaction in the atmosphere. And the whole atmosphere would be vaporized.
Or the, what do you call it? The fallout. What's it called? The
radioactive fallout, yeah.
Would wipe out the whole of the world.
Yep.
And they did it anyway. Fortunately, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But we're dealing with things that we don't have control over. Anyway, God bless you. Sorry to depress you. Have a wonderful week, a wonderful day every day of your life. Each day in your life should be better than the day before, till you're 120. And at that point, we'll negotiate for more. And the way that'll happen is if you get a copy of this book and adopt each page as suggestions, I promise you, you and your family and all those you love and your community, all those around you, will be beneficiaries. And you yourself will be the biggest beneficiary. God bless you. I love you. Have a great week. Bye.